Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 25th episode of the sensational ArtaCast. 1 week after our new life began, and we can start breathing again and enjoy life. But soon, probably found out that not everything is perfect, as it never is. But I think it's in the common senses. I think it's a better format right now than before. I think probably undoubtedly. And we have a lot of things to talk about because for me personally, I wanted to prepare for LCCC final rounds, and there was a very big tournament in Germany this weekend, which was interesting because we had a new format, and it seemed like some decks are not as bad as they seemed after the ban, but we will talk about that later. But I want to ask you first, LD, are you happy now in the game, or are you more happy at least in the game, or how is your feeling with Lorcana right now?
I'm really happy. I'm so much happier than I was and have been with the game for a long time. And I can explain exactly why that is, but it probably makes more sense to do it later when we look at
Mm-hmm.
some of the specific
Mm-hmm.
decks we've been playing.
Yeah.
Because there's like one specific thing, and I'll make sure that I reference it again so that
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that
Okay. Yeah.
everyone knows when I'm bringing it up. But there's one thing I can point to that says that, like, to me, in my definition of a healthy game, it has got so much better. It's really nice to see. We're going to have a little look at the lists from Ostlore and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that. But it's really nice to see that there's a ton of playable stuff. Some things that people thought weren't so good look a bit better. Some things that people thought were busted are actually quite beatable. I think we're settling into what is likely to be a pretty decent format, and we should all be pretty happy for that. So, yeah, overall, feeling really positive with it, and like my gameplay experience on the whole has been just way better. Like, the games have been a bit more interactive, a little more back and forth. I've not felt so like completely buried by opposing card advantage in ways that I could never ever prevent. Um, yeah, the game is feeling better
Mm-hmm.
for pretty much everyone other than players who love Hiram Flavisham. So I think from my perspective, good spot. Yeah, it's a good spot right now.
Yeah. I think so too. I think there's some slight things that I think are at least annoying, or what hmm, um, I still have sometimes the pressure of um, maybe being trapped to play some decks that I'm not made for, or how can you say that? But
Yeah,
that's
sure.
totally fine. I mean, there's nothing that I want to complain about in general. It's just a personal thing that I'm not completely. But right now, we will talk about my list later. I'm really happy. But there are some threatening things still in the meta that, I'm personally think are quite powerful, but not the way I want to
Yep.
play. So that's still a thing, but it will figure out. Yeah, let's talk about the Oslo first.
Yeah, sure. Let's have a look.
What did that tournament show us? Probably that, first of all, Red Blue isn't dead at all. Steel Song is not as frightening as we thought it is. That's what my feeling is. And Diablo is beatable, I think.
Yep, totally. Would totally agree.
Yeah. So
I
still,
just
still, the Diablo decks got probably punished a bit because everyone, if you see the list in the top eight, it's crazy, crazy Diablo hate in there.
Yeah.
So I could see that being go down a bit, and then Diablo decks can shine again more and stuff. And um, or what was your insight from the Oslo? I think I had not too many insights. It was quite quite diverse, the meta, and yeah, probably a lot of stuff is playable, I think.
Yeah, so completely. I think the one thing we didn't want to happen was to see like any sort of runaway crushing by discard at this point. Like
Mm,
going into the weekend, everyone was pretty afraid of it. To varying levels, some people are kind of pressing the panic button early and saying, right, well, you've basically just created a format where discard is able to run completely wild. From the looks of things, early indicators are that discard is powerful and certainly, like some discard deck, whether it's green steel or green purple, is has got to be in the tier one conversation post ban. Not debating that. Just it's landed in a spot where it doesn't seem completely oppressive. So
mhm,
that's kind of that's like the perfect outcome, right? Is that this archetype that had fallen off a bit because basically if one of your strategies is to run your opponent out of cards, there's only so much it can thrive in a format that's ruled by decks with infinite card draw. you know,
yeah.
basically it became possible for decks to run out of cards again, so discard is playable again. So a good result on that front, I would say. I do. Before I say any more on that, like I completely empathize with the fact that for a lot of people, discard makes them feel miserable. Like the
Mhm,
feelings that discard generates are bad for a lot of players, and
mhm,
it's sort of worse the further you go down the level of competitiveness.
mhm,
Yeah, towards that sort of semi-competitive, casual level,
mhm,
discard is miserable.
mhm,
It does lead to miserable patterns. I
mhm.
think that's the biggest mark against it at the moment is how it makes people feel versus its actual perceived level of power. Um, Without wanting to rant too much, the inverse of that is what I felt about Hiram was that actually while people feel really bad when their cards are discarded and they can't play their cards, um, the more casual crowd don't feel as bad about opponents drawing cards as they should, if that makes sense.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
all my opponent's doing is drawing cards. Why would I care about that? Because you actually, from the moment they stuck that Hiram, had no chance of winning the game. You just didn't feel it, right? It didn't
Yeah,
create
yeah,
the
yeah,
feeling of that. You
yeah.
still had all of your cards, and your game plan looked as if it would be executable. Little did you know, you were fighting an unwinnable fight.
Mhm.
So yeah, kind of nice to see that play out in the inverse, and I like the spot it's landed in. Um, I think maybe should we have a look at the DKP list because I've got
Yeah,
some things to say
yeah.
on that as well.
I have to admit, DKP insane. He won the Suit Law and now the Ostlore also, so back to back winning. He's a phenomenal player. It's shout out. That's insane. And he played his deck he's known for with a kind of a different spin, which I totally get. Like he's going down the route of still wanted to play Sisu because
Hmm.
this card is very frightening for this deck. And then yeah, you have more ramp with the all is found, and then you have 8 board wipes in your deck. So still, if you get out of cards, you have an amazingly high amount of good top decks in your deck. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and that will win you a lot of games, I think.
yeah. As someone that's not played a huge amount of blue red before, it took me a little while to piece that together. But then once I kind of got it, I found it so smart. It's like
Yeah.
the all is found is there as like discard insurance because if you get really aggressively discarded and
Mm-hmm.
you've kind of run out of cards and you're on let's say 6 ink or 5 ink even when you've been ground out of resources already, that can be so bad for the deck. But this kind of gets you up to that level of ink that you'll need to sweep the board and get yourself in a position where you can win again after you've drawn one of your amazing top decks. So you can top deck the B prep, you can top deck the Sisu, you can top deck the vision to find one of those two. Whatever it is you need to get back up in there, you at least get yourself to the ink level required where all of those draws become live instead of bricks, and it makes a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, kudos on that. I think it makes total sense. Yeah, I don't know how much he actually found himself needing it during the day. I think I remember seeing him say that it wasn't too necessary, but
Yeah, I mean,
in theory, it's a great idea.
I think he played a lot of red purples and mirror matches, so the season were
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that. I think he played no discard at all. So I think if you don't have discard in the meta, this deck is really, really, really strong. And even
yeah.
against discard, some people say it's really bad, but for me, I played this matchup now so much this weekend, and if you play it correctly, you can do a lot of you can play around a lot of stuff if you play it correctly. I think if you mindlessly play, you will lose instantly against this card, but you can play a way more how can I say, hand economy better plays. For example, if you go for sail into how far I go into shark, then you have still 5 cards in your hand or something, and then a shark is on the board with 5 cards in your hand. So that's not that easy, especially for green purple. For green steel, it's probably a more easy, but turn 4 shark is still a thing that has not much counterplay.
Yeah, totally.
When you're on the play,
Yeah, still really hard to deal with.
is turn 4 shark on the play is still a menace.
Yeah,
So
really
that's
hard for a lot of decks to beat.
yeah. Imagine red
Still a
purple.
massive problem.
How long will this shark stick? I mean, they play now their own shark, and but then it's still 2 turns
Yeah,
in
exactly.
which the shark can go crazy, like and you can chain this develops and stuff, and then game runs away sometimes. Yeah, this deck has lines. This deck has just lines. You just go for crazy lines, and
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to say first. Why people still complaining a bit, and that makes total sense. I think, but it's not a big issue. I think from game design, but it's a young game still. You think, I feel sometimes like, and there are still a lot of cards that lack a bit of answers, like shark. I mean, the only answer on turn 4 shark is Zeus. I think, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Or still the Prince John the ward issues. I mean, there's still no good answers to ward characters, and you should have access to some decent ward character answers in any other color than red. I think, and yeah, but that's hopefully, I think that goes from when time goes by a bit better. We will hopefully at some point get cards that can, I don't know, like a good inkable card that exert all opposing characters to trade the ward characters or something like that. But not some uninkable 7-drop Anna nonsense. Like a good card. At some point it will come. And turn 4 shark, turn 4 is the same. The game is too young to have enough answers for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, while we're on this deck, actually, because I guess we won't spend too much longer with it. You kind of touched on it and gave DKB some props. I just really want to give him his flowers on this one. I mean, I know he's a pretty widely celebrated player. He doesn't need someone kind of to give him too much, but I have so much respect for how he's conducted himself over the last couple of months in this.
That's crazy.
He had evolved red blue. He'd evolved red blue in a meaningful way that he believed in so deeply, to the point that he was confident, being really vocal, probably the most vocal person I saw on advocating for banning Hiram Flavisham, which
that's
for
true.
for other versions of red blue, which is his core, that's the deck he's known for. He's played versions with lesser Hiram, but to see someone who is a devout red blue player so passionately saying, "Look, this is too good. This needs to go," And I also I believe that my deck can still exist without it. I mean, I'd be happy without it, and I think it's kind of toxic for the game. To do that, demonstrate that level of faith in the depth of blue red and your ability to pilot it. Get that ban to happen, then pilot the deck without any at all, and completely deliver on like your promise of this can still be good, and then you just turn up and still crush tournaments with it. Is like a phenomenal chain of events
That's
that
true.
I have just the utmost respect for. It's the combination of I just want to give like full credit. I'm really happy for him. He is a remarkable player. Now, I've always kind of felt like he's so obviously a great player, but I think my respect for him has deepened a lot lately, and yeah, he's just can execute with this deck to an absurd degree. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of focus on that for a bit. He deserves a lot of credit for what he's done here. Really different, really unique, true innovation, and delivering with it consistently, like to a crazy level of consistency.
Yeah, that's really crazy. Yeah,
It's wild.
That's really
So
true.
yeah, congrats.
Yeah,
congrats to him.
I have to agree. I agree with everything you said. I mean, he is one of the deck builders in this game. It's crazy.
For sure.
And I think he makes the testing right. Like I think he, if I would guess, I think he sits at home and plays both decks and gives both players the perfect opening hand, and then see what happens, and then see if I can beat it. Like professional testing should be, or not slam some games on a simulator against the Daisy Lilo Haufen. And then yeah, like it's more professional what he does than many other players in this game, I think.
Yeah.
And that makes him very powerful.
Yeah. Should we have a look at some of the others?
Yes.
Which one?
The red purple. I want to talk about the red purple.
Yeah,
came second. It's a I hate evasive stack. Like 4 feet apart, 4 sharks, 3 Moana. I know him. I know the player. He's in a. He lives not too far away from me, I think, because I saw him in the Battle Beer tournament often. And played really well. I saw his game where he played against his brother. That was an interesting game. Oh my gosh, the first one was crazy. And both played really good. Both players played really, really good. And there were so many things going on. And still, till the end, they played concentrated and good. And but because I think the first game went like 45 minutes or something, and both nearly deck out and stuff. That was crazy. But I liked his approach of red purple. Do you have 2 approaches right now? Either you go for rabbits still, and stuff, and goats. You see no goats in here. That's new direction for red purple.
Yeah, for sure.
Think. And or you go for Genie for library, as you could say, the draw engine, and maybe 1 or 2 finders keepers. That way it's more fast. But you lose some attrition wars, I think, against some mirror matches, for example. But that's not easy to be said. I think that's it's really hard to find out for me personally, like Genie versus Rabbit. That's very hard to find out.
Tough.
For me.
It's a tough call.
Yeah, because I personally am afraid of Sisu and Muses, and against both cards, Rabbit shines a bit more. But in a tempo fight, Genie is obviously better than. So it's hard to figure out. I think the only thing I'm a bit surprised here in this list is that he plays 3 snakes and 4 foxes for no rabbit and no goats. And yeah, I would be interested in his take about that, because there seems to be no real good bounce targets in this list. But maybe it's just a good turn 2 play the snake or something. And or what would you guess?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't focused on that too much. I mean, Fox makes sense because like Fox is kind of always super playable. You would play that in, that Fox is still commonly a 4 in decks that aren't trying to value or bounce a lot of stuff. But the snake is the really interesting one. Is it just the complete absence of other good 2-drops as
maybe.
well? Yeah, there's so little that's sort of that exciting. You could go Pegasus as well, but it dies to a stiff breeze, and this deck's already got its plan for how it deals with evasive stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to talk to the player about Snake in particular, but it's a good one to point out. I think a very interesting one.
The Moana was really cool. I didn't know the card, to be honest. I had to read it when you saw that in the stream. I didn't know about her second effect. The second effect can have some really good uses. He made some really efficient trades with that. And kills genies, obviously. Very good. And is kind of... I mean, you could say for Peter Pan's, why no Iagos? Moana is a bit more resilient into steel than Iago. Both have their up and downsides, I think. And still hard to say which is better. I think,
playing her on curve after a Peter Pan there must be times when you just go absolutely crazy with that. You just put her into play, take something out immediately, pump up like your Peter or something else, hit something for 5+. It's just like a half a Maui, half a crab slammed together in that line, and that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck and very innovative. Sharks are, I mean, for me, honestly, the list that I show you later, I don't want to see this here with this 3 Sisu and 4 sharks. I don't want to see this. I really don't want to see this.
Yeah, I think this would also be a problem for what I've been playing this week.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, the list makes sense, I think with 4 Peter Pan, you also hypertect into Diablo decks. And I don't see the major issue of this deck. I don't know which deck is like, oh, please don't. Maybe still discard stuff. Yeah, like Prince John's and stuff. I don't know.
Like you say, though, I think that this deck really has, if discard is the potential weakness for this, even though looking at this list, I can imagine it absolutely crushing discard. It's got so much tech to beat it. They've definitely chosen the right draw engine. Like library, for library is a lot more resilient and harder for those decks to actually deal with in any meaningful way, versus like, if you play rabbit, you get stuck with your rabbit in play. It gets strength, and then they hypnotize you, sort of thing. Like, you just destroyed my engine, and the value I was meant to get off it is cleaned up right away. Like, they can kind of do it on their terms. They struggle much more with a library. I think it's a fantastic choice. Think about like DKP's list. Fair enough, he's been developing it for a long time, and he had evolved it for this new format as well, with some cool innovations there. But this is like a totally fresh take on Red Purple that is so tuned to a metagame that existed for like less than 2 weeks before the tournament, right? Like, you didn't even have a full 2 weeks. That is like, the players that played this, what an achievement to just create something so well aligned into a metagame that is completely unproven at that point. It's like, I love it. Love to see it. It's really awesome.
I wanted to say no set 7 card, but the Moana is actually a set 7 card.
Yes, she's set 7.
Yeah.
So someone's been keeping a careful eye on her, waiting for her time. As soon as Diablo's come back, you get that card in.
Yeah, I like
love
it. I
it.
think we will see adaptations of that moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, Red Purple. What I also like about it is that it can still run CISO really good with the shift line available, with the natural. You have naturally this 3-cost CISO still in your deck, so that's threatening a shift very early
Yep.
and can swing that game very fast. Yeah. I will also work on something like this. I like it. Yeah, there's still
I
some
thought,
still some thoughts I would like to hear his opinion. It was because like if you play for Peter Pan, for example, but Sisu is too good. For uninkable 3-cost Peter Pan, then it feels kind of clunky to me to play also 4 Sisus because you will never play them probably when you have the uninkable Peter Pan. But yeah,
yeah.
that's just some things I would like to hear.
Mm.
How it went for him. Maybe he also thought about some cards or yeah. I mean, after a tournament, you always have new insights in your deck. Yeah. Okay, so what conclusion we make? Just shortly, which decks do you think before we speak about our lists? Which
Yeah,
decks
I
do you
mean,
think are the top contenders? If we can say that even now.
mm. So, yeah, so I think that you have to put the discard, not tier 0, but the discard decks are like level 0. You have to be ready to
Mm-hmm.
beat those, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when that's the case, you can play them or you can play something tuned to beat them. Both, as we touched on last week, both totally valid strategies. So I would say that certainly at the top, I've got Emerald Steel up there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
liking it more than Emerald Amethyst discard
Me too.
in the
Yeah.
in the
And
Pokemon environment.
how do you think of the green yellow one?
I think it's a really, really powerful deck that
Yeah.
nearly nobody plays,
Yeah. That's
and
what I
uh,
think
and
as well.
and I'm really, really happy that they don't. Um, I actually, I
I
actually had
don't
a
know how to
chance
beat
to,
it. I don't know how to beat it. Honestly, Forgotten
yeah,
Me is so much discard. Like, they have forgotten me. They have hypnotized and sudden chill. That's the red blue deck. Whoa,
yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Pe- People are not putting the respect on that deck they should be, and
Yeah,
it's kind of like it's only one big win away from
yeah,
like prominence.
yeah, yeah.
It needs to get a bit of heat behind it so people pick it up. But this weekend, I actually had the chance to hang out with Kawa from Podcana a bit,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
is a
Okay, yeah. He's very
long
high on
time
the
green
deck,
yellow.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, super high. It's all he plays, and he loves it and pilots it phenomenally. And we played some games, and I was fortunate enough. I basically got lucky in one of them. But I needed to get lucky to have any shot of beating this deck, and I think um, it's so much better than the level of hype around it and the level of discussion around it. It's a bit of a sleeper for me.
The only thing, I have a good friend of mine plays this deck also, like his pet
Hmm.
deck in our locals,
Yeah,
and he says the deck is very good, but it's bricky, and you don't see that as an opponent often.
yeah,
If you He says it can brick really good. I mean, you often need
yeah.
the under the sea for the right time, and then you need a keeper, and if it's and then the under the sea is uninkable and stuff. But I think it's not super bricky, but it has some
No,
combo pieces that need to fit together. Like
yeah.
also
That's
the deck feels very miserable if you don't have Prince John
sure,
on
sure.
turn 3.
Yeah, so
And
actually it is one of
yeah.
those decks that does need to draw specific cards in a specific order, which makes it inherently a bit inconsistent. But no, that what you've just said there makes total sense. I mean, chatting to Kawa, that's kind of how their games went, was like, oh, I've set up this board state, which right now I could do this thing if I had this card. I
Mm-hmm.
can't because I don't have it. I have set up the board state to execute one side of my game plan and then proceeded to draw the wrong half of my
Yeah,
deck.
yeah.
That can happen. Yes, so I think it's like that kind of failure mode keeps it suppressed a bit, but overall, on paper, it's a powerful deck that people should be putting a bit more respect on. But yeah,
So
I mean, easy to say for an opponent.
in order to discard decks, I would say I'm not the biggest expert, but Green Steel seems to be still the most versatile and most consistent of the discard decks in my feeling. And then Green Yellow and Green Purple, I really don't see the. I mean, you will see my list later. It's a bit of a small thing of discard, but not the whole discard. The problem is also if I see the list and I see 16 Diablos in that list, my whole body cringes. You know, I can't stand that. I can. Yes, I only want to Diablo shift. That's all I want. Is I play this 12 nonsense one drops. All I want is Diablo shift. That's what this deck shows me. I know it's more than that, and every Green Purple discard player will now say, Artabax, I will never watch your content again because you're stupid. I hate you. But I can't stand the look of me. I can't stand the look of the lists. That's just what I wanted to say. I see the list.
That's why you've got me here.
Yeah, okay.
So I can provide a balanced point of view, so that if they decide that they hate you, then perhaps they still like me a bit.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's good.
Yeah,
that's
and
good.
then they still listen to the podcast. I'm not as low as you are on it, but I do think of the three, it would be my bottom pick right now. I really, really enjoyed the Green Purple discard, and I would love to just sit down and chat with other people that have played it for hours, and specifically on this topic of its worst matchup pre-banning was red blue. That took a hard banning, and then the field and the deck got worse? Question mark. Like the new field that formed without Hiram, I think, is a less hospitable environment for Green Purple discard than the one before it, even though Hiram was the biggest problem, right? Which is just like an exercise in metagaming and metagame management. Is you have to be ready for that, and why your worst matchup disappearing isn't always good news, because it's a ecosystem, and if something disappears, other things rise that might create new problems for you, which to me is kind of what's happened with Green Purple discard. So of the three, I'd put it lowest.
No, I didn't want to say the deck is bad. That's what I didn't want to say. I just said my body cringes if I see 16 Diablos in a deck. That's
you can understand why someone might interpret that as you saying the deck is bad.
Yeah, okay. Then I have to. No, that's not what I. Nah, I just. How can I say that? It's like
I'm just teasing you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's keep going. No, I just think. I really think. The deck is. I know people will also disagree. Maybe I should just not talk about it. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Let's keep going. No, I just shortly I say the deck is. People will say it's not, but I think in comparison to other discard decks, it's linear and easy to pilot, in my opinion, because Green Steel is you have so much variety. You can go for Beast lines, you can go for Ursula lines, you can go for Diablo, you can go for Prince John lines, and here it's like you have to gather your discard cards and shift Diablo at some point when it can't be answered immediately. Like that's the deck for me.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it's fine. It's a fine deck. You can play it. You will have decent success with it. I
totally
can't.
No, fair enough, and that's fair enough. It's it's not every deck is right for every person.
No, because and that's total. Because I have good friends like shout out to Primor or Dextronic who play the deck, and I like both of them, and it makes total sense to play the deck. You know. Please, if I bash, that's what I wanted to say. If I bash the deck, don't think like I bash you. You know. That's all I wanted to say. I love you all.
Nice. Yep. And
Let's.
we love you.
You can't speak for everyone.
I speak for all gamers.
We talked about this card. This card is top tier.
Yes.
Red Blue's top tier.
Yes, I would agree with the small caveat that I think there is an adaptation period needed. Not every tournament will have DKP playing in it. There will be some time needed for players to adapt to this version of the deck and to get really good and proficient at executing with it. I think it has a higher skill ceiling than some of the other versions.
Yeah.
Its failure modes are a little bit stronger. There's a lot more scope for messing it up in the early game. Please don't shoot me for that opinion. If anyone is really passionate about the other versions, that's how it looks to an outside observer. So I think there is a period where the general player population will need to adapt a bit, get some reps in. It might not look as strong as it is for a few weeks, but I'm putting it in tier 1 when the player skill level is there and people have had time to really get under the skin of this version. It's going to be up there in tier 1. Yeah, I think it's still great.
And I don't think it's too you have to be afraid if you say like the deck lives by the tempo. It's a tempo deck, you know. You have to exactly know when you need to, you need to know the spot where you can slam down a mana, and you win by that. You know, your opponent can't recover from that, and it's a tempo. It's basically an aggro tempo deck. I think it's a bit like aggro is probably weird because you ramp and stuff, but it's a tempo deck, and you're not ramping and removing everything from your opponent. That's not what the deck does. So what I want to say is I agree totally that the deck has a very high skill ceiling, and you will only see a few. As some, not the biggest amount of players that have success with it. I think like other decks.
You're not going to see DKP Ruby Sapphire winning every one of your local set championships.
Yes,
those will still be won by Kiwi Birds and Diggy Diggy Hole.
And some red purple too. I have to admit. So we have DKP. We have this card, which you can argue which is the best. What do we say about Steel Song?
It's a really, really funny one because I do think on paper it's so strong. It should be really good into this format, but it's not showing up massively yet. Maybe people are just like more excited about trying. Maybe a lot of the steel players are back on green steel. I think Steel Song is decent, but I'm excited to get your views because this is something that I really thought was like straight to tier 1. You know, it's now fully in the conversation.
I mean, they had a hard time in the Ostlore, for example. Like, you don't want to wheel a DKP list, you know.
No.
That's what you really don't want to
do. Sure.
And you don't want to wheel this. I play 3 Sisu, 3B prep. For Peter Pan, Moana, like 12 Maui's decks, you know. So there are some decks. There were a lot of decks which you really don't want to wheel, and the decks like Green Purple and the discard variant, for example, is tricky for Steel Song. Like you have to be really careful. That your last card is not the Hold Your Word. You need 2 or 3 cards that you can discard 1 to wheel then and stuff. Like it's really can threaten them really much, the discard stuff. And like the feeling is it's not in the best spot right now because I don't think it crushes something completely. Like even the red purple, like the lists they seem to look right now, not the best thing. Well, you don't want to face that with Steel Song too much.
That's kind of why I felt so unsure about putting it in any kind of like, I couldn't give it a tier right now because I'm like in paper on my head. I'm thinking it should be so good, but the feeling just isn't. The vibe isn't there for it
Yeah.
to perform to the level it should. I think more data needed. It
Yeah.
should be a great deck, and you're certainly not going to be like, this isn't. It's definitely not an environment where you're like, I can't play Steel Song, but
No.
it's
No. Yeah.
it has good matchups. It's a playable deck. You're still very capable of winning a tournament with it. But yeah, in terms of wide good performance, I don't know. We have to wait and see because the feeling hasn't met my expectation yet. It hasn't worked out exactly how I thought it would. So can't really place why, other than some of these decks like red purple look like they're better into it than they would have been in the past. And yeah, don't know.
Yeah, the red
Tough.
purple, like I said, I'm so good, you know. I'm so good.
You are.
Do you remember what I said last week? The red purple lists just have to make themselves resilient against discard and aggro, and they are totally crushing everyone. That's exactly what this second place list looks like.
Yeah, that's how it panned out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good call. Now who's the fool? I'm the fool. My turn to be the fool.
But honestly, red purple is also top tier, right? Do you agree?
Yes,
or not?
yes,
Yeah,
I
okay,
agree.
okay.
Yeah, that would be the last thing I'd put in the ring, and then you've got some contenders that. I like purple steel too.
Yeah, purple steel and Diggy Hole, honestly,
Yep.
both are. They will never be really bad. I think they will not be targeted and crush you. Honestly, a good amount of times, and you were not aware of that. You know, like yeah, it's very good decks, I think. But I think you have to say more about that soon.
Yes.
So, but let's summarize. So we have this card, red blue DKP. At least DKP did not. I don't know the other lists, but I think it's DKP at least. Red purple, Steel Song, and Diggy Hole purple steel. Yeah, I think that's the.
I mean, I also put. I pretty highly value the like Kiwi Bird curve out blue steel deck still. It didn't lose anything really. I think that it's still capable of winning, although it really needs to not see. It needs to see decks like not this red purple. If this is so that view is based on what I expected the meta game to look like. Going into a field with this red purple is just like terrible news for the deck. So yeah, a question mark for that. I think it's like super playable at your set jumps and everything. And I would say it's a stronger deck. It's a stronger deck than it looks, but across a big tournament field, the emergence of things like this red purple build are not good news for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the question is still, which deck do you really crush? You know, I don't know.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't crush decks. It crushes draws.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it crushes you for. Yeah, that's true. That's total. That makes sense. Yeah. Before I make Harlan angry, we go further.
How many friends can you lose in one podcast episode?
I will teach you. I will teach you.
We should plan that one. That's like episode 50 special. Like the ultimate bridge burning episode. It's just one deck to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. See if like by the end of it, anyone will talk to you anymore.
Yeah, we will only have 3 viewers anymore, you know, because all gone.
Look forward to that. The great bridge burning. It's coming. I don't know what I'm going to say, but it's not going to be friendly.
Okay, I think it's time to talk about our new creations.
Yeah, let's do it.
First of all, I really like the name of your deck. It's called PS Bird Sweater. And you played this deck a good amount, I think, and are happy with this, right?
yeah, so I, as I mentioned earlier, like right when we were starting, that the reason I was happy with the format was a very specific feeling and experience that I've had with this deck. So
Mm-hmm.
bear with me for a couple of minutes. I'll tell you the full story.
Mm-hmm.
The bans happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to play practice games and test decks out. And my immediate read on the format, as many others, was these discard decks are everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and if I'm playing an event right now, I want to make sure I basically want to put a deck together that I feel super confident into these Diablo discard decks. At the time, actually, it was green purple discard that was rampant everywhere. In particular,
Mm-hmm.
that's cooling down a little bit now. But a week ago when I put this together first, it was everywhere. Everyone was giving it a go. So yeah, that was kind of the big one for now. And then over time, it gave way to green steel a bit more. Um, but yeah, the aim was build something that I can feel really confident into the discard matchups, while also feeling like I don't have too many bad matchups on the whole. So,
Mm-hmm.
so this very very basic metagaming exercise. This strategy is tier one. How do I beat it without picking up loads of bad matchups against other decks that I think are pretty good? And I made my peace with this as a deck that gave me that confidence, while I really only felt behind against like Amber Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Was the only thing I felt was a truly bad matchup. And you
Mm-hmm.
can have one. Like decks need to have a bad
Yeah,
matchup. That's
that's.
okay. Um, that was my theory. I started playing with this deck, made a few iterations to it. At the start, it had dwarf mines in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Actually, it didn't need those at all. Against some of these discard decks, like especially the green purple one and green yellow, like a turn one happy just freezes the board against Diablo Shift because they can't remove it right away. And it sounds like an exaggeration, but it really, at turn one, you just put it into play and it froze them until like turn four. They just didn't know what to do.
It does get better if you see the this face
Yeah, yeah,
of the
yeah,
card when
yeah.
you're
When
having a
it's
Diablo shift
if
in
you're
your
up
hand.
like, excuse me, did you want to shift the Diablo? Oh, I'll be killing that now. Um, yeah. So thematically, just a fantastic card. Yeah. Basically, that was the hypothesis. I started playing with the deck, and I won 23 best of threes in a row. That's between testing and between a small field event that I played in. I eventually lost my first match to a player that I have a deep respect for, and wasn't even just a random thing. Like really well executed and just yeah, like and I just yeah.
23.
Yeah, and it's not about the point I want to make is not about that number, because I think it's so easy these days to pump impressive numbers and then be like, "Look, whatever it is, the meme, the XO record. This
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
have a look at my busted deck. It's not about the 23. The thing that makes me happy about it is I started with a I started with a goal to beat a deck that I felt was the best in the format without having picking up too many bad matchups in the process, and I was actually able to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
It took me one day to tweak the list and to a point where I was happy with it, and do that and get
That's
it to that point.
satisfying. Yeah.
Compare compare this. I tried to do the same with red blue for close to 6 months. It was not possible. You could not do it without picking up at least two or three bad matchups.
Mm-hmm.
You could build decks to counter red blue, yes. You can put a ton of item destruction in. You can put a ton of really, really aggressive stuff. You basically, the direction that you would go if you wanted to counter it meant that almost every steel matchup became a near auto loss for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, at times, Green Purple was able to sit in a place where it could confidently have a positive record into Red Blue, while still being a good deck into the rest of the format. So
Mm-hmm.
there were intermittent points where you could be happy, but when a deck has a target on its back, i.e., it is perceived as the best deck in the format, it should always be possible to actually counter that strategy without being too terrible. If you dedicate 6+ slots in your deck to things that are only good against one matchup, you should be able to gain a positive win rate against it, and consistently beat it without making your other matchups too much worse.
Yeah.
To me, it was simply not possible before, and then through this week and playing this deck, I've seen that in this format, I believe it is possible. And so the people kind of pushing the argument of, well, at least you can hate Diablo out. I actually agree. I think that it's possible to shut down this stuff. Discard is toxic as a mechanic. Totally agree. Leads to bad feelings. But these cards that are now perceived as the big bads of the format can be interacted with. There is counterplay for them that's meaningful, available. This was not the case for these cards that got banned, in my opinion. So I'm tons happier with the format, just based on the example of how the last week's gone. I don't know if I'd continue playing this Purple Steel deck, even though the record was great. It was a metagaming exercise more than anything else. Try to build something that I feel really confident into the best deck with. Now, as the best deck changes, I likely wouldn't play it, but I had a fantastic record with the deck, a fantastic time playing it, and that just kind of restored my faith in the ability to metagame. I've spent so long looking at these cards without any meaningful counterplay that I'd sort of lost faith in the fact that you can tweak decks to actually get an edge on some of these things. So that positive feeling that I expressed at the start, that's the nature of it. Is like, I think that there are still problems. They are problems you can think your way out of, and you can innovate your way out of. I don't believe that was true for Hiram Flavisham. So I'm tons happier, and that's the whole story. Any questions?
Have 3 actually.
Okay, great.
So many things are bad in this list now.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad cards in this deck.
No. I just wanted to ask really some honest things. Like Robin Hood is great right now, right? That's just a question. Or what would you say is Robin Hood great? Or
I loved playing with Robin Hood. I felt like the kinds of decks I was expecting to play into over the week and at my small field tournament I played in at the weekend, I felt like none of them had particularly great answers to a Robin, and that completely came true.
It makes total sense.
Shifting on 3 was an incredible problem for a lot of these decks, and it performed as prescribed. I was really, really happy to be playing it, and I've got this is something you might have to watch out for with me, because it's like a bad habit or a bad feeling I'm developing that I think might turn me into a worse player. I really am coming to dislike the purple 1-drops. Like, I dislike almost all of them for different reasons, and people hold them up as the gold standard of 1-drops. Like, look at these 1-drops Purple's got. Chernobog's followers, Broom, Diablo. Diablo is still my favorite of them, but
I tell you why.
They just feel so weak so much of the time.
I tell you why, because in which matchups they shown before, it was red blue, right? Because you can just get 1 free lore, and basically it was the cards did say pay 1, get 1 lore, draw a card. You could say, and that doesn't help
That's
you.
Good.
That was fine. That was the best 1-drops can do against them. And now they are underwhelming, of course, because much more matchups go for board presence, and then also like they're kind of slow also, and but they're just not great. Diablo is the best, I agree. The only thing I don't like about Diablo, if we live in a shark world, then
it's not great.
Chernobog can quest into a shark and Diablo can't. That's the only thing. But I will come to that later in my list, because I have the struggle the same. Honestly, like in your Purple Steel has not the best one drops to offer, right? So you have to
No,
take one of those, right?
yeah, so it doesn't. And that's kind of the point I wanted to make, is that actually it has access to the 12 great purple one drops, which are an easy thing to default to. But in a lot of matchups, just don't really cut it anymore. It was feeling like you needed to be ready to interact early, and if you didn't, you were missing a lot of opportunities to really get ahead and quickly snowball in the game. Building a resilient board that can trade well, rather than just like, I play a Chernobog and then I get away with a free quest for one turn, and the next turn I cash it in for a card, and that is a good exchange. But yeah, I wanted to build a board that was going to stick around and do things like have a one drop like Robin that threatens good trades early and threatens the shift from turn 3. More important for me in a dock deck like this than just cashing in one drops for cards. And so even with these one drops that are pretty bad, like Happy and Robin, I felt really happy playing them. They did exactly what I wanted them to do. And overall, I'm kind of moving away from just cantrip one drops. I don't think they're always right in purple decks. I think
Not in the
that
meta,
there
no.
are no, yeah, it's metagame dependent. You have to be ready to not play them. Is kind of the opinion I'm landing on. But yeah, you just have to be aware of when that will be, because sometimes they'll be among the best things in your deck, and sometimes they'll like make you feel like you really get a poor slow start in a lot of games where you can't catch up. Yeah, so I wanted a deck that could still confidently race, but also contest the board really early. So like Shift Robin and Calhoun are both incredibly good at doing that. So you just, if your opponent starts aggressively questing, you just take your trades and also gain more lore than them. Just having both of those cards together doing that was brilliant. Yeah, it's and I wanted to play a dock deck because like sometimes you get discarded a little, and if you get discarded down to like your last card by turn 3 or something, which can happen, at least you're able to make it be a dock and get the engine rolling again, and it's better than a lot of the other options. And dock performs super well. I think it's a great card at the moment. So yeah, just to say, I don't know how much more I'll be trying to develop it, but like, yeah, this looks like a weird build, but
No, it's not weird. If you
it
think
did
it's
the job.
absolutely not. Why should it? The only other thing, probably, if some people, why Lawrence? I don't say it's wrong or something. It's just a question. Lawrence over the Cobra.
Yeah, so I wanted to put big things into play quick. Cobra, like in my experience, sucks on turn 3 quite a lot. Into a bunch of, it's specifically weak into a bunch of decks because of Vanish. But the main thing is actually just having this big threat that can quest for 2 was often a more aggressive option than this 4/4 Vanish that gains 2 when you pitch a card. Now you lose the reach it brings. Obviously the reach it brings is incredible, and you have the ability to bounce it. That's really good. You lose that, but playing on curve, Lawrence just felt consistently better to me, which is what I was trying to do. Was just
makes total sense.
Make a bunch of big stuff that's hard for a lot of these decks that we're running around to contend with. Specifically, it was like all these sort of discarding muses type decks that they struggle with it a bit more. Big bodies that they can't just immediately ditch. Like I say, specifically green purple discard was like on the day of putting this together was the thing
like
that was everywhere.
Crushing, it's
and
crushing green purple, right?
it was not even funny how much of a beating it is. The game could like the a way that a game would go where you play a turn 1 happy against them. This was before anyone had adapted kit back into the deck or anything. It was lights out. They just couldn't win. And
So
you just
funny.
had to jam. You just had to jam happies. It was such an absurd beating for green purple discard that yeah, it felt phenomenal.
If
Yeah,
you
like I say.
yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
If you struggle against Steel Song, that's the last question I would have. Steel Song or Green Steel. Why go down to 3-Pete? Huh?
Yeah, because Pete is something that I'm losing my passion for. He just annoys me as a 3-drop.
You mean
And
he's bad into DKP and Steel Song and Green Steel and
no, he's good into loads of stuff. It should have been 4, but it was like
no,
just
fine.
hokey numbers that like trying to squeeze a bunch of stuff in that I wanted in the deck. Yeah, I did actually. There were very, very few moments while playing the deck that I ever thought like, oh, I should really have the 4th Pete here.
Okay,
I
okay.
always felt like
That's a good
I always
insight.
felt
That's a
a
good
lot of the
observation.
time I felt like I need exactly 1 Pete at the right time, and sometimes I draw 2, and that kind of sucks. You know,
Okay.
I'd rather the other one was a different card. So as long as I had used my resources well, I was always looking for exactly 1, and I tended to find it with 3. I think 4 is probably a smart idea, but I was
No,
comfortable
it's
with it.
just a question. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's good though because it gets me thinking as well, and yeah, it was a meaningful decision.
Because I just
Yeah.
that just because it's so crazy good against sharks and so crazy good against steel silk, so I just wondered.
Yeah, yeah, I really didn't expect to play against any sharks though.
Yeah, that's
At the
true.
point
You know, yeah,
now
that's true. Yeah,
we're looking at this weekend. It would
yeah,
be a 4 of. You know, now we're a few
yeah.
days on. It's got to be a 4
Okay, nice. We
if
will
indeed
see.
this deck was still playable. Yeah.
I think this will always be playable. I don't know why this should not be playable. I don't think you lose to against anything really hard outside of steel. I could imagine green steel is also a bit tricky. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I mean, you have
There
fire the
were
cannons and stuff. Yeah, it's fine probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it really came down to how well you managed their first Ursula.
Yeah, that's what I
So
thought as well. Yeah.
so you obviously as soon as you see it's um a green deck, you have to ink your strength so that it
Mhm.
doesn't get Ursulaed. That makes things significantly trickier. And then you have to try and build a board that you can sort of take the first double storm or something on the chin, and that's hard to do. But it is possible. The kind of size of bodies and the things you put into play, you can anticipate this coming, and then you prepare a hand that has something like 1-drop Fox in it, so you can immediately clean up the Ursula. And actually, the games were very easy to recover from there. It's a tricky one to navigate for sure, but it all comes onto that. I think you could get away with playing some number of Smash, and it would
Yeah,
make that matchup way
maybe
better. Um,
yeah.
yeah, um,
Or even it's maybe too clunky, but Zeus is also great right now, you know, because of
mm,
sharks. But it's
yeah, we are.
expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. But you will see. You will find out. I think.
yeah. I'll keep testing with
Yeah.
this and just see how I want to evolve it after the weekend. But like I say, I wanted to talk about it because I just wanted to tell that
Mm-hmm.
story of
Of
it was.
23.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
it was a
crazy.
great
I
run.
never had that. I never had that in my best
No,
Pixel One
and
times.
yeah, and I didn't either. And I was as it was kind of happening, I was like, "What's going on here? Oh, I've actually just read the field, and am
Mm-hmm.
winning a bunch." And cool, like I did it. I looked at the decks that were good, and I built something that beats them. Which was kind of always my thing back in the day was micro adjustments to expected fields and just try to have something that's good into an expected field on the day. Obviously, the downside to that is that it means the decks can rapidly become bad as the fields evolve.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, yeah, just wanted to use it to illustrate that point that I think that we've been up against a few things that aren't easy to just counterplay against, and even if discard makes you really upset, like just know that there is counterplay available, and so in time you should be left with a more diverse format. And I think the first results speak to that a bit more as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's really reassuring. First glance is really reassuring, so feeling positive about it all. But I really want to see your deck. Show me. I want to get into it. I got some criticisms up my sleeve.
Oh.
No, I don't. I don't really.
I was afraid now. Yeah, I have to say today we had to submit our decklist for the final rounds of LCCC. LCCC, yeah. And yeah, it's exciting because left are Moyen, DKP, Kurt, San, Spessy, and me. And if you just assume what they play, then Moyen and DKP will play red-blue, probably. San and Kurt maybe green steel, and Spessy purple steel or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not allowed to change our decks after that anymore. So I will surely play against Moyen now. Mm-hmm. I assume he's on red-blue, but even if I lose, I'm not allowed to change my deck anymore. So I have to build a deck that hopefully does well into him, but also has a fair matchup spread that you will not die to some random stuff. What I found out in my, it's my responsibility and my heart says that I want to play green purple, of course, and I want to make it run. And I don't want to play this card, at least not this card like Diablo discard Prince John nonsense. No nonsense. Sorry, viewers, no nonsense. It's a good deck. Sorry, it's just not what I enjoy. I want to play tempo. What I found out is that Merfolk for me was in a very great spot because we are running now Peter Pan, so you can actually force some really annoying trades for them, like if they have to run in with a Merfolk or so, with a Chernaborg or something, and then you can punish the Peter Pan. Also, the discard decks, like the Diablo decks, it really hurts them to discard a card. For example, if you're shifting, everyone who knows, like you have to discard a spell. Then I think you have 2 cards left in when you're on the play. If you want to challenge into this, and then if you don't, this quests forever. You have to take care of the Merfolk at some point. And that's why I thought this in a crazy good spot. And then I thought, which card did we have in the past that this nearly disabled? It is Flynn. And so what it actually does is what I expected to do, and what I tested was really promising against a red-blue deck, makes them a really awkward decision, because the red-blue deck is the DKP list is a low resource deck. It's like it has not many cards in their hand. So, but they need to take care of these 2 cards. So they can't live them forever. Sometimes on the play they can turn 4 shark or something, and then I'm only at 8 law or something, or 6 most of the time. But even then, if I follow up with Mother Knows Best or something, it's really they need to take care of these. And if they go for Tipo, for example, on turn 2, Tipo is really punishing in general right now for them, because they rather play Sail because it is much better for hand economy. And if then the Tipo runs into the Merfolk, they have to discard another card. It's so bad. Or example, Tipo, they could go, I mean, some people say, they go Tipo into Goofy and kill Merfolk and Flynn. But then they have 1 or 2 cards in their hand left with 4 ink. They can't do that, They really can't. So it's a really tricky situation for them to, just to play against a Merfolk Flynn line. It's really, really tricky for them. And I really wanted to play more 2 questers in the deck. What this actually also enables us is to play a little bit of this card, just to make them respected. I experienced against a red-blue deck, the DKP list, if you play a discard card in your deck, they need to adapt their play style like so much. Like they have to save cards in their hand just to discard. They can't mindlessly ink everything. They always need to be aware of that. And then, Merfolk Flynn is crazy good against them. Crazy good. Ursula is also great against them because they play now 4 How Far I Go, 4 B Prep, 4 Pirate's Life, and 8 of them are unink, so rarely misses. And so if I go Merfolk Flynn, and then our new tool, of course, new old tool is Ursula. And Ursula, if you see the supporting spells for Ursula is just Sudden Chill, Friends, and 2 Mother Knows Best, but that's enough. It's really enough.
Yeah.
And she's still a ticking time bomb. I learned to live with her, to play with her again. And it's so awkward for them. I can either draw 4 or discard 2. It's very threatening. But I want to point out it's still not a discard deck. It's not. I tested with hypnotizers and stuff too, but then we are still an aggro deck, and then we want to raise, and then it's awkward to play hypnotize in your curve. Like you want to get to a good amount of lore, and then you play hypnotize. It's weird. I mean, sometimes they can caught off guard or something, but if they're not careful, but it's such a bad tempo play, and I basically play only the discard in this open decklist to make them respect it. And to make them respect it is often enough. Sometimes I keep it like two or three turns, and then I ink it. if they keep their hand at four cards because they don't want to ink, then at some point I ink it, play a goat, and it's fine for me. And it really is good against red blue. I'm really convinced about that. And I think it's very different from how green purple discard plays against red blue, because against green purple discard the difference is what I think makes this a bit, I don't know, I didn't test discard that much, to be honest, but against the discard version they always can go for, I don't know, sail into how far I go into shark. But if you go Merfolk Flynn, they need to do something, They can't. And then it gets awkward for them, because then they lose cards in their hand to commit on the board, and then they can get punished by the discard, by the Sudden Chill stuff, and not by because the Diablo deck doesn't threaten lore. That's the only thing that they don't do. But they are also they are higher on the discard. So I don't know which deck is better, and I think I heard a lot of people. The green purple discard into red blue is not. I think it's closed matchup. It's not a very green steel is very good into them because they have so many shark outs. But the normal green purple discard has really only Bruno. And if you're on the draw, for example, if they go turn 4 shark, you need to wait another turn till you can Bruno the shark. And if they follow up that with another shark or something, you're totally lights out, If they go turn 4, turn 5 shark, it's lights out. And with this deck, you can. Sometimes I could even double Mother Knows Best the shark sometimes, or I simply raise. I flood the board to make them be prep, and then the sharks are gone at least, and we can start anew. The thing was the most tricky for me was Rabbit versus Genie, but in a world where I see a lot of Muses and a lot of Sisus, I was just I really missed when I played the Genie. I really missed the draw. It's I have no library or stuff. I really miss draw sometimes in this deck, and then that's why I came to Rabbit. I don't know. I don't say it's correct. You could also split them or something. But I'm just a person. I like the consistency of draw engines sometimes, and then I don't know. If it gets B-prepped, it's way better than a Genie, and Genie can also not quest into a shark, and it doesn't. It's close. I think it's close, but I'm not thinking it's super wrong or something. And then I have some shark outs. It's with 2 Mother Knows Best and 2 Brunos. Don't want it to play more Mother Knows Best because it can get very clunky sometimes.
Yep.
And 3 Peter Pan still, because I expect the other players to play a lot of Diablos. And against red blue, it's decent because you can play him, and it prevents the shark from exerting, because then it threatens a crab trade.
For sure.
That's decent. It's not the best of the world, of course, but it's decent. And I really like the synergy between Merfolk, Flynn, and Peter Pan, because you force them to trade. and then you can run over with the Peter Pan. Red Purple, for example, what play they for 2 drops? They play Pegasus, absurdly nonsense against Flynn. The Queen also need a crab to even can trade the Flynn, so also bad. And Flynn, the red Flynn, is also not great because then I get run over with the Peter Pan after. And Flynn
Yep,
is
nice.
bad to exert. So I really like the synergy between these three, and I think they are strong. And I think these are the best aggressive characters you can play now against Red Blue, for of course, and against a lot of other decks too. And now
Nice.
you can crush me.
No, listen. If your soft spot is big dumb characters with too many stats and no abilities, my soft spot is like anything that I. So in general in life, like I'm addicted to nostalgia. I can't get away from just
Yeah, me
like
too.
the warm fuzzy feeling of something you enjoyed as a kid. All you have to do to win me over is to bring back a card I used to like that I thought I couldn't enjoy anymore. So if I see a deck with 4 Flynn in it, I'm never going to complain because it makes me harken back to the days of playing Flynn, and I feel happy, and I get the warm fuzzies again, and yeah, in general, you won me over. Yeah, you kind of covered off the main questions I had. So couple of things, I guess, just observations for people listening as well. LCCC is a fantastic tournament, but the nature of the small field plus open deck lists in the games means that you'll see things in lists like this here, which go against conventional wisdom for like how you would build a deck into an open field. So the Rabbit Genie, to me, when you look at the like level of aggression in this deck and what it's trying to do, and the fact that you're not maxed on snakes, that sort of thing, you would think I would naturally think, well, this looks like a genie deck to me, right? You're trying to apply pressure. But into the field that you've explained, I think it makes total. I totally see why Rabbit is the choice. And again, with the 1 drops, Chernobog's followers, I think that like in a vacuum, maybe Diablo is just in general in a 4 grab deck a bit of a better card. You're expecting multiple shark decks. You can't quest with Diablos into the sharks. You can with Chernobogs, and they bring a couple of other advantages into the field as well. So they're a choice. I think the choices you've made are really smart. And I do totally get them. I get why you're on the fence about Rabbit Genie, but I think Rabbit's the right call. And there's one more. It's not just that you're thinking about the whole field. You're going into the you're in the winners bracket final. So if you win your next game, you only have to play one more, the grand final. So the next game is kind of everything. And if
That's
you
very much.
highly expect Moyen to be on red blue, then you've made great choices for red blue here, while also not giving up too much. You've also respected the rest of the field in case you don't win, which is an eventuality you have to prepare for. You can't build a deck purely teched against red blue. Number one, Moyen might not play it. Number two,
and honestly, I tested it so much. The KP deck is really, really strong. It's not that you, especially on the draw, I don't know if it's possible to beat a deck that completely crushes it on the draw. It's really,
yeah, sure.
It has so powerful lines. Like I said it multiple times, but turn 4 shark on the play. You come into the turn 4 with any deck. For example, red purple. It's so far away from B prep or something. It's so far away, and the only really good thing is Zeus. And the only thing, if you would ask me in an open field, I really wanted to play Iagos because I really love the card,
Sure.
especially against red purple. But I expected, DKP Iago doesn't do much because it gets sharked, and against green steel, it's a vanish character. It's risky, and so in an open field, I would probably cut it to Brunos or something and play to Iagos. Because I don't think in an open field I need that much removal. But if you just see how crazy you lose against an unanswered shark, then you need to play more removal. Shark freezes still the board. It's annoying as ever. Yeah. But I'm happy that you like it. And I tell you, if you once will play test this, Merfolk into Flynn into 3-drop Ursula feels so great. Still, it never, especially if you then have a sudden chill, because then Merfolk Flynn, they discard 2 cards and they are out of cards. You then it's so you could even say it has more discard than the discard version, because you have these 8 and the discard versions play only Hypnotize.
And maybe 1 to 2 Lucifer.
Yeah. So
you have more cards in your deck that say discard a card.
Yeah. I mean, you could make arguments for Prince John, but I can't convince myself to submit a decklist with Prince John, and I can't look in the mirror tomorrow, and I honestly think it's not even too good. It's kind of slow in a deck like this. You want to it's slow.
Doesn't really do what you want it to do. Like you're not looking with this list, and the fact that you have multiple draw engines in Ursula Friends and Rabbit, Bouncy Rabbit. Like, you're not looking for another way to slowly gain 1 card.
Exactly.
While grinding your opponent out of resources. Not particularly interested. If your opponent trades into your Merfolk and Flynn early in the game and puts themselves down to like 1 card, it's far more. The operative thing is that they are on 1 card versus, like, you don't care if you're on 3 or 5. It's you can leverage that position to win the game and continue applying pressure. It probably wouldn't have even been worth it. What's much more worth it is presenting the greater threat of Ursula. Of like,
much more oppressive. More oppressive than
much more oppressive. Yeah. And I love it. I love a lot of the thinking here. This is cool. This gets me excited. It gets me feeling good about the game. If this can exist again,
it looks so old school, right? That's why I called it back to the roots. It's so many things from set 3 here, like Flynn and Ursula and Mother Knows Best and stuff. And
I will see. I think it is happy to see this.
Before we come, because but I think that's just the last thing I want to say. It's a very tricky matchup for both of us if Moyen plays DKP list. Because for him, it's very tricky to decide if he runs into my Merfolks and Flynns, because then he has to discard. And for me, it's very tricky to decide, do I give him this shark trigger and quest with everything, or do I still leave it frozen? That's a very tricky decision in this deck. I expect him, if he plays DKP, sadly, I expect him to play some Sisus, and then it gets frightening, and then I have just sometimes have to quest before he can Sisu. But it changes it a bit. But let's see what he will submit. I'm excited, and I think it will be a cool game. Probably a close one, I think. And
do you know what day you play?
I suggested Thursday to him, but we will talk about that.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, it should be an awesome game.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. Yeah. And I'm very excited for this deck. It's if you want to build a deck and say which is an Artabax deck, it's this, The only thing is missing here is Yago, because I want a big fat body in this deck. But other than Peter Pan, I love all this set 3 stuff. And it's everything I want to do. And I think the Sudden Chill adds a new layer to the deck that needs to be the opponents need to be aware of, and you can catch people off guard. If you're in a tournament with this and you play Ursula, they expect you to only sing Friends, but then because you're not discarding stuff, and then you sing Sudden Chill, there's and you can still ink it, It's not that you're somehow.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Okay, then.
Very nice.
We got it for this week, I think. we discussed a lot. I will be excited for next week. I will have my LCCC match. Do you have anything this weekend or something? Is there a tournament or something?
No tournaments this weekend. My practice starts very, very soon for UK Games Expo, which will be a thing for me coming up in the coming weeks. I'm totally unsure of what I'll
You're
play.
in Ravensburg, right?
That is to be decided.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we will see.
Some things came up that mean I have to travel to them, and I'll have to seriously consider the cost.
Okay.
There is a final decision to make. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
but still some things on the horizon.
Yeah. There are big events on the horizon that I'll be testing for as well, and I'm sure in the meantime I'll be playing a ton of a green purple deck that looks very close to your one for this week. That'll keep me very busy. But yeah, just really looking forward to keeping up with how things change over the coming weeks, because like I have said a million times today, the initial takeaway is really, really positive. Like it's really positive on a surface level, and also just at a deeper level with looking at how much more counterplay seems to be possible. I'm so happy, and I don't want to get back into. We're trying to wrap up, and I'm in danger of going off again. I empathise with Blue Steel players a lot, because the Fortisphere loss actually is so much bigger for them. And I kind of said last week that I felt it was also a necessary move to stop Bell decks being dominant. I don't know how much data we had to suggest how bad that would have been. My gut feeling is it would have still been bad. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that while I'm really hopeful about all of this, I do recognise that there are blue red. I don't feel particularly bad for, because like the deck was too good for too long, and I do feel like it had a lack of counterplay and something needed a change. Sad for the players that are displaced by that. Hope they can evolve their deck, and hope they find something they love totally. But the blue steel players, I feel more empathy for. They waited a long time for their deck to come into the spotlight.
Yeah, that's true.
And it hasn't had so much of a time. The deck was absurdly powerful, but it hadn't been for very long, right? Like we hadn't had set after set after set of oppression by this deck. So for them, it was kind of like, oh, so when we're a problem, we get nipped in the bud quickly. Yeah, so totally empathize with them. I hope they land on something they like. I hope that they can work things out. All of that to say that empathize with the players that have lost out, but like on the whole, I don't want to mask the fact that I feel so deeply that what has happened is good for the game on the whole. Maybe the Fortisphere thing could have been different and something else. It could have been Bell. It could have been a Bell errata in addition to a Hiram ban. Just on the whole, I think the moves were really positive.
Yeah.
And now that we've got a bit of data, I feel just worlds better about the game as a whole and its future. And it's weird how such small changes can change your feeling so much. So yeah, I hope other people are feeling the same and are not feeling too, like the changes are super bad for them. The outlook to me is really positive, really good. So yeah, hopefully we can all find something we like in this new, slightly more open, slightly more interactive field, and get really excited about the game again.
Yes. Nice. That's a good conclusion. Yeah. I also wanted to just shortly point out that we are celebrating last week. We didn't want to make red blue players upset or something, because I read some comments I mean, some were salty about not comments over in our podcast, but some people were upset by the celebration of other players. But yeah, if it's the right for the game, then I hope you don't feel. Yeah, I think it was reasonable to celebrate it, to be honest. Yeah, how can I say it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Till next time, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.